Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to kick off this week's theme of favorite tracks of 2023 looking at Monika Roscher Bigband. We had checked out a track from this group last year sometime. I think it was at the end of the year, in the last half of the year I should say, not the end. And I was thoroughly impressed by it, but a bit taken off guard. It was very different, and it took me some time to really adjust what they were doing. And I didn't know they put out an album last year somehow. I was intrigued by the group. They're on my listening list, and somehow I missed that they released an album. So I'm really happy that somebody suggested this so that we can check out another track from them and put it on my radar that it's one of those albums I need to catch up on alongside the other 40 or so 2023 releases that I didn't get to last year. So let's dive in and see what Monika Roscher Bigband is bringing to the table with A Taste of the Apocalypse. Yeah, I really love that synth rhythm underneath the moving melody we had in our intro. Yeah, the drum part's slowly expanding. A lot of production put on the vocals. Interesting choice given all the acoustic instrumentation in here, but it works so well. Yeah, bringing a little bit of darkness to the track. Really cool hocketing going around with a lot of the low-end instruments. It's a really interesting vibe. It's just teetering on being too dark, of reaching that antagonistic area, but just dark enough to have an edge to it. It's really cool the wide harmonies they have in these really quick staccato rhythms. There's so much nuance into the performance too. Each staccato note isn't the same length or body or anything. So good. So I've talked about harmon mutes a lot. In those trumpets, those are called harmon mutes.
Why am I on this road? Who made us run this race? How come we were making way just to fight us all erase? Are we not ghosts? Are we not in control? Or are we just ghosts? Are we not in control? But are we not ghosts? Are we not in control?
It's really cool because, like, in a metal sense, we just had a breakdown. Halftime feel, big booming section. Alright. Why did it? I've never done that in my life. Yeah, this was pretty cool. I definitely need to get around to this album. There's a lot of really nice ideas in here. It's got a fantastic vibe. Let's start with that. I don't think everything in this analysis is going to be positive, but I do want to start off with the positivity simply because I did enjoy myself. And I think I'm coming to the realization I probably should start all my analyses with the positive because not everybody makes it to the end of the video, and honestly, I'm kind of sick of being misconstrued. So let's start with the positives. The vibe. They absolutely nail it. And the cool thing is, they nail it through a mix of electronic and acoustic. We do have the brass. It's all brass, isn't it? Technically, saxophones are woodwind, but they're made out of brass. So we'll lump them in there today. It is a typical big band setup. Rhythm section, your horn section. Well, big bands don't always have vocalists, but in this case we do. The rhythm section is a bassist, guitarist, drummer, piano, pretty typical, and our big band is the horn section is trumpets, trombones, and saxophones. It sounded like we had alto and tenor saxophone. In some of the lower end harmonies, I kind of want to say I heard a bari sax, but I didn't see a bari sax, and with all of the digitization in the synth keyboard work going on, it's possible that that lower end punchiness was actually coming from that. So I'm not 100% sure about that. Regardless, the makeup here, the instrumentation is 100% big band. But they modify it a little bit. We, of course, as I mentioned, have some synth work in here. We have digitization on all the vocals. There might be some other production elements that I completely missed. It's possible that the horns had some digitization or effects put on them that I didn't pick up. I think that this blend right here is why it works so well, why it crafts this emotion in a way that feels so palpable. That's not to say, I don't know why I took such a deep inhale. It's not to say that a traditional big band couldn't play this sound. The notes are really where the atmosphere gets its resonance. The eeriness, the looming broodingness of it all. The occasional half-step dips that really add quite a bit of darkness to some of the moments. That's all built into the composition. All that has to do with chord progressions, note intervals. that vibe itself could be replicated in a traditional big band. What I think the digitization brings out, though, is a feel. Something that I've mentioned that rock and metal bands do very well is largeness. A lot of this is because the distortion, the amplification, you're taking a small sound and making it massive. That massiveness is getting transferred into the feeling of the music as well. The digitization here, the effects put on some of these instruments, specifically the synth, is really about making it bigger. It's about making it punchier. It's really about rounding it off. And I think that that punchiness really helps deliver a size to the song that they wouldn't be able to achieve without. They can certainly create volume. They have, what, 11, 12, 13 horns here. They can create volume if they wanted to. I've listened to some big bands that are massively loud, and as I've talked about in the past, scientifically, sound waves combine multiplicatively. As long as you are in tune with everyone else, you can make a really big sound with only a few instruments. But there's something about the specific production on this that I think really amplifies a weight. That's what it is. It's not really a size, it's a weightiness. It's a density of sound that really comes from the low end. A little bit is going to be the lower saxophones, the trombones, the bass, but really there is the low end punchiness that comes through on our synth, on our keyboard, that really, I don't know, it makes it feel impactful. And the more that I think about it, the more that I talk about it, I'm like, yeah, everything I'm saying, I don't know if it's coming across clearly, primarily because I don't even know that I believe it myself. I keep thinking, well, an acoustic big band could do that too, but uh, I don't know. I think I need to spend more time with it um, to formulate specific descriptions of what exactly it is I think that the electronic elements add as far as impact. Why it's impactful, I think, is really my question. If anyone has some insight into it, if you feel the same way, you're listening to it and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. I don't think an acoustic big band could do this. And you have your own thoughts on it, please let me know in the comments. I keep going back and forth on it. I don't think an acoustic big band could have this specific feel, but all the ways I'm describing it, acoustic big bands could do. And it's throwing me for a loop. So we're going to get off that topic. There is a digitization to the vocals. They are robotified. It's not a word, but we're going to roll with it. There's a layering to them, there's a metallicness to them, a coldness to them that I think works really well with this sound, and it's really an inspired decision given the large weightiness that I've already talked about. I don't think that traditional clean vocals, especially big band style vocals, would work within it. It would be fine, there wouldn't be anything wrong with it, but the decision to create this metallic electronic sound, I think, embellishes and amplifies that cold darkness that's present throughout much of the atmosphere. It really leans into that and removes a human warmth from the equation and allows even our lead melody to have a cold distance to it. That blends so well with the atmosphere of the track. We had some harmonies with the vocals. I think they were also roboticized, and I think it was very cool to have all of these, because both vocal deliveries were layered, backing tracked, choir effect. I don't know how they went about doing it, but they had layers amongst themselves, and then they got smashed together and we got these massive layers. And it just made everything feel that much bigger. And it never dropped either. I think that's sort of my favorite part about it. I really felt that at any moment we were going to lose the electronic style. It was a way to introduce the song, but we were eventually going to bring in acoustic vocals. And we never did. We stuck with it. It's the sound of the song. It's not an opener, it's not a transition, it's not a moment. It is the song. And I really enjoyed it. It's not a combination you would normally hear. Much like the electronic undertones, Big Band just doesn't play around with vocal exploration like this. So it's a treat, if nothing else, to hear, as I mentioned, a very traditional instrumentation for big band being experimented with in these ways. I do wish something else had happened. That's a weird way to phrase this. And I think a lot of this is based in my biases. I've played big band music. A lot of big band music. And so I'm probably looking at this very narrowly, especially since I've already mentioned that I'm praising them for taking this formula and going outside the normal boundaries. So it's really weird for me to say I wish they had done something a bit more conventional. But a lot of the horn instrumentation felt limited. It was all rhythmic and textural and atmospheric. It felt very modern in that way and very distant from jazz in that the instruments rarely did anything melodic. Their job was to create an atmosphere for the vocals. In another way of putting it, a lot of big band music tends to have a really catchy hook. It's the A section. We've talked about this in jazz before. You have your A section, which is your memorable part. It's the one that people are going to be humming when they leave, the club or whatever. And then you have your B section, which is your solo section. And typical structure is A, B, A. Verse, verse, solo, verse. Here, I don't remember the horns playing anything that I would call memorable. There's nothing that's sticking out in my head, nothing I think I'll be humming later. It is a subversion of the typical placement of the horn section in songs like this. And again, I should be praising that. But I do wish that, again, at least some instrument got to play a melody line, some counterpoint in here would have been really cool. So, I don't know. Maybe I just need more time with it. Like I said, I might be coming in with just old expectations, and I shouldn't do that listening to something that's pushing the boundaries on a style of music. One thing I really didn't like, although it got a chuckle out of me, so again, I'm kind of confused about whether I enjoyed it or not, was the transition out of our solo section back into our final chorus. It was just a very abrupt stop and then a return to another style. It was very disruptive, but exceptionally unexpected, so much so that I chuckled a little bit. It's just so far out of left field that it was almost absurd. And I don't know if it was supposed to be comedic or not, but I the gimmick of that, not the gimmick, the novelty of that will fade as I listen to it more and become more accustomed to that section, and then it'll just be the disruption And I don't know if I'll enjoy that over time. It was a very strange element, and it feels entirely purposeful simply because everything else transitions smoothly. The entire song feels seamless in the way that it moves between sections, so it feels very deliberate to do that there. I don't know. I feel like I'm being too harsh on it. Maybe I should have just grooved with it. I did really, really enjoy that staccato section. Here's something I want to focus on real quick. So, in metal, I might have even done this section before in other tracks with jazzier elements to it. I don't know. In metal, a lot of how you play the note is the same. You hit the string, or you slide across the string, or you pluck the string, or that's not you pluck it, or you finger pick it. Your technique might change, but that's kind of about it. Especially when you're running it through amps, distortion, compression. What comes out on the other side removes a lot of the nuance of the performance itself, so it really kind of doesn't matter how you play the note because the end result's going to sound the same. So it's just playing the notes all that matters. When it comes to that staccato rhythm at the end where we had the saxophones and trombones, and then the trumpets came on top of it. I mentioned there are some really cool harmonies in there. There are. The notes, the chords come in real quick and short, but if you listen, you can hear some really cool harmony and note intervals there. Beautiful stuff. Anyways, if you listen to how long each short note is played and what type of body they have. Is it straight? Is it rounded? You'll find a lot of nuance in here. And it isn't just one person playing each note differently, it's the full band. The first two notes might be direct and short, just a quick burst of air, where maybe the third note kind of swells a little bit. So you get bop, 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 bop. And it's just, there's so much nuance to the performance of it that is entirely intentional. Everybody is doing this. It's not just a series of staccato notes, they all have their own inflection to them. And it's just such a magical little moment of this full band cohesion. And it's one of those little things that I think you have to have played music with these kinds of instruments in order to have been in a situation like that to really hear it, to feel it. And I absolutely did. It's probably the simplest part of the song on paper, but probably I put money down it was the hardest one to record, to get right for the studio version of the track. And I'm sure that that bridge is the part that most of the musicians look forward to as when they really got to focus, when they really got to concentrate. Everything else just sort of flows and they get here like, all right, we got to zone in on this. Because yeah, it's like 1 to 2 notes with a couple of flourishes in there and a repeated rhythm. It's simple on paper, but yeah, it sounded like the most difficult element of the song to me. I'm going to hit some lyrics and then we're going to wrap this up. All right, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on. I feel like there's something a little bit deeper on this one. It speaks about a digital consciousness of illusion filled with shiny programs and binary spirits, rushing streams of binary spirits. Promises that were made but unfulfilled. Ghosts wandering solid grounds. In fact, the term ghost comes up quite a bit. The chorus is, but are we not ghosts? Are we not in control? Or are we just ghosts drawn from the whole? I think this is all a metaphor for the types of people who are quite plentiful, who live their entire worlds in the digital realm. They can't keep their eyes out of their phone. They have trouble engaging with people. Everything is just about Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, just constantly scrolling all the time, living those digital lives, being promised. Well, the song doesn't say what was promised, but I kind of get the idea of happiness, that slow dopamine drip. It talks about a disconnect between those next to us. It says your figure is blurring in the window next to mine. A deepened state of illusion and consciousness that can't be regained, shiny programs that once enabled can't be stopped or nullified. Once you get used to the scroll, the infinite scroll, so many apps. I remember back when you'd get to the bottom of a page and it would say next page or load more, and you would have to physically say, I want to explore more of this. And now everything has infinite scroll because they found out that if there's any friction to the process, people are likely to leave the app. Oh, well, that's the end of this one. The end signifies a finality. So a lot of programs, and pretty much all of them, went for infinite scroll. The next page is always loaded automatically as you keep scrolling down. Naturally, it increased engagement. So I like that. Once programs are enabled, they can't be stopped or nullified. And it's not only just that, you will eventually put an app down. You'll pick it back up though. Whether it's a notification. Bing! Oh, what's this? Oh, I got a like? Oh, now you're caught in a scroll again. Or just the temptation. I wonder what new is happening. Gotta check the feed. I really like that line. Can't be stopped or nullified. They just weasel their way into your brain and hijack things. But that's what I feel like a lot of this is. One of the verses says that we're distant selves, scattered, lost, sleepwalking through a one-way street. At one point says, where am I on this road and who made us run the race? How come we're making way just to find us all erased? I really like this. I don't know, again, what the particular meaning is to the lyricist, which I think is Monika Roscher, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, there's no personnel list here, so. But at least to me, it's about losing time. Not only is it our most precious resource, the one that we have a finite amount of, we cannot get more time, but it's also what makes us last longer, in a sense. We utilize time to create memories. When we pass, it's people who remember us who keep us alive in their hearts and their minds. It's making goals, creating things. The idea of being lost to time, I think, at least to me, is really tied closely to wasting time. If you end up running a race that is meaningless, you end up wasting time. And through wasting time, you find yourself erased. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily where they were going with it, but that's how I read it. I don't know if the song is specifically about the rise of Internet 2.0 and smartphones and just people being stuck in the digital world. But I read a lot of that in here, and it's called A Taste of the Apocalypse. It's about the division between people because of electronics. And I feel like the general apocalypse that is portrayed in film and media and books tends to be about division. This is a little taste of that. The division isn't just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's a lack of compassion. And the internet has certainly helped remove compassion from a lot of the equations of human interaction. Some of that doom is present in the music. It is overwhelmingly dark, and now that I think about it, there is the robotic nature to the vocal delivery as well. It's almost as if our vocalist is trapped in an app trying to warn us of the dangers of spending so much time on the internet and in our phones. In which case, that might even make the transition from the bridge to the chorus a bit more meaningful to me. It's a harsh stop. It signifies the end, if only for a brief moment. Those are my thoughts. Monika Roscher Bigband, A Taste of the Apocalypse. Let me know what you thought. It's interesting. I enjoyed this on the musical side just for being a sound I liked. Ended up being a bit more deeper. More deeper. Man. Ended up being deeper than I expected. And it makes me want to listen to it again. In fact, jeez. I just need to listen to the album, honestly. I've listened to track. Wait a second. Did I just forget track 1 from this album is the track that we checked out last time, which means I had to have been aware that this was a 2023 album when I went and looked up the lyrics. Genius is pretty good about putting the year that the album came out pretty prominently. I can't have missed it. Anyways, I've listened to 2 out of the 15 tracks. Might as well listen to all of it, right? Anyways, let me know your thoughts, comments, perspectives, opinions. Put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. We do have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of exploring some of y'all's favorites from last year. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.